Be me, 34. Divorced Bill 3 years ago because he wasn't growing as a person. Translation: he was perfectly content with his boring accountant job and wanted me to slow down my career momentum. We have 2 kids, Emma 8 and Jake 6. Fought tooth and nail for primary custody because obviously I'm the more capable parent. Ended up with 60-40 split, which was honestly insulting, but whatever. Bill gets them every other weekend and Wednesday nights. Been documenting everything in my co-parenting app because accountability matters. Recently started noticing the kids seem different when they come back from dad's. Emma keeps talking about Sarah's garden and Sarah's cookies. Immediately red flags everywhere. Who the hell is Sarah? Casually ask Emma during one of our mindful dinners about this mysterious Sarah. Oh, she's Daddy's friend who lives with us now. Lives with them. Bill didn't even have the courtesy to inform me he was cohabiting with some random woman around my children. Spend 3 hours that night researching Sarah on social media. Finally find her through Bill's tagged photos. Sarah Rodriguez, 29, preschool teacher. Of course she's younger. Of course she works with children so she can play the maternal angle. Scrolling through her Instagram, and it's all sunset photos and inspirational quotes about finding joy in simple moments. The kind of performative positivity that screams insecurity and lack of depth. Zero engagement with social justice issues, no posts about voting, nothing about environmental consciousness. Just vapid lifestyle content and pictures of homemade bread. Decide I need more intel, so I drive by Bill's house the next day during my lunch break. Just happen to be in the neighborhood, totally normal. See this woman in the front yard with my children, planting flowers. She's wearing some flowy sundress like she's cosplaying as a Pinterest mom. Emma is laughing at something Sarah said. Jake is actually helping her dig holes instead of having a meltdown about dirt under his fingernails like he does with me. Sitting in my Tesla watching this domestic scene unfold and feeling physically ill. That evening, I have a very necessary conversation with the kids about boundaries and stranger danger. Explain to Emma that just because someone seems nice doesn't mean we share our personal information with them. Ask if Sarah has been asking questions about mummy, or our house, or my job. Emma gets that confused look she gets when I try to expand her critical thinking skills. Sarah doesn't really ask about you, mummy. We just play games and stuff. The dismissiveness in her tone is concerning. Clearly this woman is deliberately positioning herself as the fun parent figure to undermine my authority. Text Bill that night, demanding a conversation about his living situation. He calls me back within an hour, which is more responsive than he ever was during our marriage. Rachel, I was going to tell you, soon, I just wanted to make sure it was serious first. Make sure it was serious. He's been letting some random woman bond with our children without proper vetting. Demand to know her background, her intentions, her financial situation. Bill gets that tone he used to get when he thought I was being unreasonable. Tells me Sarah's been wonderful with the kids, and that's all that matters. Hang up before I say something I might regret. Spend the weekend researching everything I can about Sarah. Find out she makes maybe $35,000 a year as a preschool teacher. Bill is supporting some broke woman who's clearly looking for a meal ticket. The power dynamic is completely unhealthy. She's probably love-bombing my children to secure her position. Decide I need to meet this person face-to-face to assess the situation properly. Show up at Bill's house the following Wednesday when I'm dropping off Jake for his overnight. Knock, instead of just letting Jake run to the door like usual. Sarah answers wearing an apron covered in flour. She's shorter than me, darker skin, kind of pretty in that unthreatening way men seem to prefer. Immediately extends her hand with this warm smile that feels rehearsed. You must be Rachel. I've heard so much about you. The audacity of this woman discussing me with my children. Shake her hand briefly while scanning the interior of the house behind her. Notice new curtains, different furniture arrangement, fresh flowers on the table. She's already redecorating like she owns the place. I'm Sarah. It's so nice to finally meet you. Finally meet me, as if I'm some peripheral figure in my own children's lives. I understand you're living here now. Keep my tone neutral, but make it clear I'm evaluating her. Yes, Bill and I have been together about 8 months now. 8 months, and I'm just finding out about her existence. The kids are just wonderful. You've done such an amazing job raising them. The patronizing compliment makes my skin crawl. She's trying to position herself as an authority on my parenting. Jake runs past us toward the kitchen, yelling about cookies. Sarah laughs this tinkly laugh and follows him. I follow too, because I need to see what's happening in my former kitchen. There's actual homemade cookies cooling on racks. Jake is already grabbing one and talking excitedly about helping mix the batter. At home, Jake claims he's too tired for any food preparation activities. Clearly, she's bribing them with sugar and empty calories. Emma appears from somewhere upstairs, wearing a dress I don't recognize. "Mommy, look! Sarah taught me how to braid friendship bracelets." Holding up her wrist with some colourful string creation. At home, Emma always says crafts are boring, and she'd rather read. This woman has been systematically identifying what I supposedly fail to provide, manipulating my children's interests to make herself seem indispensable. Bill walks in from the garage looking more relaxed than I've seen him in years. He's got some colour in his face, gained a little weight in a healthy way. Wearing a casual button-down I bought him that he never used to wear, puts his arm around Sarah's waist in this casual, possessive gesture. They look at each other with this nauseating contentment, like they're starring in some wholesome family commercial. "Rachel, would you like some coffee? I just made a fresh pot." Sarah's still doing that hostess routine in what used to be my kitchen. Decline politely while noting she's already established domestic routines. Emma shows me her friendship bracelet again, and I praise her creativity. Mention that we should work on more challenging crafts at home that develop fine motor skills. Sarah gets this slightly confused look, like she doesn't understand the educational value. Of course she doesn't. She's focused on entertainment rather than development. Jake starts telling me about the butterfly garden they're planning. Apparently Sarah knows all about plants and ecosystems, which is ironic because I've been trying to get him interested in environmental science for months. But when I suggest educational nature documentaries, he complains they're boring. Suddenly he's fascinated by biology when it involves playing in dirt with Sarah. She's found the exact intersection of fun and learning that I've been working toward. Except she stumbled into it accidentally while I've been strategically planning. Stay for exactly 15 minutes to observe family dynamics. Notice how Sarah naturally includes both kids in conversation without lecturing, how Bill seems more present and engaged than he was during our marriage, how the whole house has this relaxed energy that I realized was missing before. Feeling increasingly uncomfortable with these observations. Make polite excuses and leave after reminding Jake about his homework schedule. Spend the drive home analyzing what I witnessed. Clearly Sarah is love-bombing the children with permissive parenting. All cookies and craft projects without any structure or educational goals. Bill probably loves having someone who doesn't challenge him to be better, someone who's content with mediocrity and surface-level happiness. The children are being seduced by instant gratification instead of learning delayed satisfaction. This is going to impact their long-term development and achievement orientation. Call my therapist, Dr. Amanda, for an emergency session. Explain the concerning situation with Bill's new girlfriend, how she's undermining my parenting approach with frivolous activities. Dr. Amanda asks how the children seem when they return from visits. Have to admit they've been more relaxed lately, fewer tantrums. But that's obviously because they're not being held to appropriate standards. Rachel, what specifically concerns you about Sarah's interactions with Emma and Jake? List the obvious issues. Lack of educational focus, too much sugar, no structured activities. Dr. Amanda has this annoying way of asking follow-up questions that miss the point. Do the children seem unhappy or unsafe? Of course they're not unhappy. That's exactly the problem. They're being conditioned to expect constant entertainment and validation, instead of learning resilience and critical thinking skills. Try to explain this, but Dr. Amanda keeps steering the conversation toward my feelings. Obviously, I have feelings about my children's welfare being compromised. Any responsible parent would be concerned about inconsistent boundaries. Decide I need to document everything for potential custody modification. Start keeping detailed notes about what the children report from Bill's house. Emma mentions Sarah helped her with a school project about family trees. Red flag. Why is Sarah involving herself in academic work? Jake says they made pizza from scratch and he got to throw the dough. Concerning that she's teaching them to play with food. Emma talks about how Sarah reads different voices for all the characters during story time. I read to them too, but I focus on comprehension questions and vocabulary building. 3 weeks later, Emma comes home from Bill's house with a friendship bracelet for me. Sarah helped me make this one special for you, Mummy. The manipulation is so transparent it's almost insulting. She's trying to ingratiate herself with me through my own daughter. Emma explains that Sarah said it was important to make something nice for me, because I work really hard and deserve pretty things too. The woman is coaching my child to pity me for my career success. Decide I need to have a direct conversation with Sarah. Text Bill that I'd like to invite Sarah for coffee to discuss co-parenting coordination. He responds immediately saying Sarah would love that. Of course she would. Probably sees it as an opportunity to further her agenda. Arrange to meet at a neutral location downtown, upscale enough to establish appropriate context. Sarah shows up 10 minutes early, wearing jeans and a cardigan. I'm in my usual work attire, which clearly makes her self-conscious. She orders some basic latte while I get my usual oat milk cortado. Start with pleasantries about how well the children are adjusting. She beams talking about Emma's creativity and Jake's curiosity, like she discovered these traits instead of me nurturing them for years. I wanted to discuss consistency in parenting approaches. Explain that I've worked hard to establish routines and educational priorities. How important it is that the children experience similar expectations in both homes. Sarah nods enthusiastically, like she totally understands. That makes so much sense, Rachel. You're obviously such a thoughtful parent. The condescension is subtle, but definitely there. I'm still figuring out how to be helpful without overstepping. At least she acknowledges she's overstepping. Ask about her background with child development. Turns out she has an associate's degree and some early childhood training. Nothing compared to all the parenting books and research I've absorbed. But she talks about her classroom experience like it's equivalent. Mentions how she's learned that different children respond to different approaches. Clearly a veiled criticism of my structured methods. Emma seems to thrive with creative expression, and Jake loves hands-on learning. As if I haven't been trying to provide those exact things in developmentally appropriate ways. She asks about my work and seems genuinely interested. I explain my role developing marketing strategies for sustainable consumer products, how I'm trying to shift cultural attitudes toward more conscious consumption. Sarah nods, but I can tell she doesn't really grasp the scope or importance. That sounds really meaningful, making the world better through business. The oversimplification is mildly insulting, but probably reflects her comprehension level. Steer the conversation toward household routines. Explain that Emma and Jake have specific bedtimes, limited screen time, and structured homework periods. Sarah agrees these are important, but mentions they're pretty flexible on weekends. There it is, the permissive approach disguised as understanding. Ask about nutritional guidelines, and she talks about involving kids in cooking, which sounds nice, but completely misses the point about establishing healthy eating patterns. An hour into coffee, and I realize Sarah isn't malicious, just limited. She genuinely cares about Emma and Jake, but lacks sophisticated understanding of child psychology, operates on intuition and basic kindness rather than evidence-based parenting strategies. Probably thinks she's being helpful when she's actually undermining years of careful development work. The children are drawn to her precisely because she doesn't challenge them to grow, drive home feeling frustrated with the entire situation. Bill has chosen someone who makes him feel good about himself rather than someone who pushes him toward growth. Sarah represents the path of least resistance in every way. No wonder the children prefer the house with cookies and craft projects over structured learning activities. They're too young to understand that long-term development requires short-term discomfort. That weekend, Emma asks why I don't do more fun stuff like Sarah does. Explain that there are many different types of fun, including the satisfaction of accomplishing challenging goals. Emma gets that glazed look she gets when I try to expand her thinking. But Mommy, why can't learning be more like playing? Clearly Sarah has been feeding her these simplistic ideas about education. Spend an hour explaining how play can be educational if it's structured properly. Suggest we do a science experiment with baking soda and vinegar. Emma reluctantly agrees but keeps comparing it to Sarah's way of just letting her explore. Jake comes home the next week talking about the vegetable garden they planted. Apparently, Sarah explained photosynthesis through some story about plants eating sunshine. I've been trying to teach him about photosynthesis with proper scientific vocabulary, but he responds to her anthropomorphized explanation like it's revolutionary. Clearly she's dumbing down complex concepts instead of expanding his intellectual capacity, though I have to admit, he's suddenly interested in biology for the first time. A few weeks later, get an email from Emma's teacher about improved performance. Emma's been more engaged in group projects and creative writing assignments. Teacher mentions she seems more confident expressing herself. Obviously, these are positive developments, but I'm concerned about the underlying cause. Is Emma finally maturing into her academic potential, or is she being conditioned to seek approval through performance? Notice both kids have been having fewer behavioral issues at home. Emma's meltdowns about clothing choices have virtually disappeared. Jake actually helps with kitchen cleanup without being asked multiple times. These changes are obviously positive, but I'm concerned they're superficial. Real behavioral improvement comes from internal motivation and developed self-regulation, not from being spoiled with constant positive reinforcement. Decide to visit Bill's house unannounced during one of his custody weekends. Legitimate reason, Emma forgot her retainer and needs it for her orthodontic treatment. Arrive Saturday afternoon and find all of them working in the front yard. Bill is building raised garden beds while Sarah supervises the kids planting seeds. Everyone is dirty and laughing like they're starring in some wholesome lifestyle advertisement. Jake sees me first and runs over with soil-covered hands to show me the tomato seedlings. "Mummy, look. We're growing our own food so we don't have to buy it from stores." The environmental angle is clearly Sarah's attempt to appeal to my values, though she's oversimplifying sustainable agriculture into basic gardening. Emma bounds over to explain their crop rotation plan, which is actually just different vegetables in different boxes, but she's excited about the terminology. Sarah approaches, wiping her hands on a towel, again with that warm smile. "Rachel, Emma said you might stop by. Would you like to see what we've planted?" Spend 20 minutes getting the full tour of their modest garden project. Sarah explains each plant choice with this enthusiasm that's either genuine or very well performed. Mentions how she researched which vegetables grow well together. Clearly she's done some homework to impress me with her domestic capabilities. The kids interrupt constantly with questions and observations. Notice how Sarah answers each one without showing any irritation, even when Jake asks the same question 3 different ways. Bill looks genuinely happy in a way I don't remember from our marriage. He's got dirt under his fingernails and doesn't seem stressed about it. During our relationship, he would never engage in messy outdoor activities. Complained that gardening was impractical when we could buy organic produce. Now he's enthusiastically explaining soil composition to Emma like he's discovered agriculture. Clearly, Sarah has influenced him to embrace activities he previously dismissed as frivolous. Sarah mentions they're planning to donate extra vegetables to the local food bank, obviously positioned to demonstrate her social consciousness. Though volunteer work would be more impactful than occasional vegetable donations. The kids are excited about helping hungry people with their garden, which is sweet but reflects simplified understanding of food insecurity issues. Real activism requires systemic thinking, not just individual charitable gestures. Leave feeling more conflicted than when I arrived. The children are obviously thriving in this environment despite its limitations. They're learning practical skills and developing environmental awareness, but through play-based methods rather than structured educational approaches. Sarah's influence seems genuinely positive, even if her methods lack sophistication. Bill appears more engaged as a parent than he ever was during our marriage. That evening, try to implement some of Sarah's approaches in my own household. Suggest to Emma that we plant herbs in containers for our kitchen windowsill. She's immediately excited and wants to start right away. We spend an hour at the garden center picking out basil and cilantro plants. Emma chatters non-stop about different growing requirements and watering schedules. Clearly she's absorbed more information from Sarah's garden than I initially realized. Jake asks if we can make pizza from scratch like they do at Daddy's house. Normally, I'd suggest we order from the local organic place to save time, but decide to try Sarah's hands-on approach to cooking education. Jake is amazed that pizza dough requires yeast and warm water. Spends the entire preparation time asking questions about chemical reactions. Ends up eating more dinner than he has in weeks because he helped create it. Start noticing small changes in my own parenting approach. Less structured activities, more spontaneous exploration. Emma suggests we have a backwards day, where we eat breakfast for dinner. Normally, I'd explain why maintaining routine is important for developing self-discipline. Instead, we make pancakes at 6 p.m. and both kids think it's hilarious. Realize I haven't heard Emma's anxious complaints about school in several days. Jake hasn't had a bedtime meltdown in over a week. 3 months after meeting Sarah, receive another positive report from Emma's teacher. Emma's been chosen for the advanced reading group and is participating more in class discussions. Teacher specifically mentions improved social skills and creative problem solving. Asks what we've been doing differently at home to support these developments. Have to admit, most of the changes correlate with Sarah's influence rather than my parenting adjustments. Jake's preschool teacher mentions similar improvements during conference week. Better cooperation during group activities, more willingness to try new things, less anxiety about messy play, and more enthusiasm for outdoor exploration. She asks if we've been doing different activities at home. Realize that Jake's most significant growth periods align with his weekends at Bill's house. Decision to invite Sarah to Emma's school science fair, partly because Emma specifically requested it, partly to observe Sarah in academic setting. Watch Sarah engage with Emma's project about plant growth patterns. She asks thoughtful questions without oversimplifying or talking down. Other parents seem drawn to her natural warmth and enthusiasm. Emma beams, showing off her research to my dad's girlfriend Sarah. The possessive pride in Emma's voice is unmistakable. Overhear Sarah talking with another parent about classroom volunteer opportunities. Apparently she's been helping with reading groups at Emma's school during her lunch breaks. Emma never mentioned this, probably because she knows I'd have opinions about coordination. The other parent raves about Sarah's patience with struggling readers, mentions how she makes learning feel like play without sacrificing educational content. Exactly the balance I've been trying to achieve for years. Afterward, ask Emma why she didn't tell me about Sarah volunteering at school. I thought you might be sad that she's there and you're busy at work. The diplomatic wisdom of an 8-year-old protecting my feelings. Realize Emma has been carefully managing information to avoid conflict. Ask if she likes having Sarah at school. She makes reading fun for the kids who think they're bad at it. Even Emma recognizes Sarah's gift for meeting children where they are. Start following Sarah's Instagram more regularly. Initially for reconnaissance, but increasingly out of genuine curiosity. Her posts about classroom activities show creative approaches to early literacy. Photos of science experiments using household materials. Simple art projects that develop fine motor skills while encouraging self-expression. The content is actually quite thoughtful despite the casual presentation style. Notice she occasionally shares articles about child development and educational research. Not the advanced academic journals I read, but reputable sources with practical applications. Her captions show she understands developmental psychology even if she doesn't use technical terminology. Comments from other teachers and parents suggest she's genuinely respected in her field. Realize I may have underestimated her professional competence. 6 months after the divorce, Bill texts asking if we can adjust the custody schedule. Immediately assume he wants more time to solidify Sarah's position with the children. Turns out he's asking for slightly less time because Sarah thinks the kids need more consistency. She's concerned that too much back and forth might be disrupting their sense of stability. The request demonstrates thoughtful consideration of the children's needs over the adults' desires. Agree to the schedule change, partly because it gives me more time with Emma and Jake. Partly because I'm curious about Sarah's motivations. Someone positioning herself for long-term relationship security would want more influence, not less. Her willingness to step back suggests genuine prioritization of the children's well-being. Maybe her approach isn't as calculated as I initially assumed. Few weeks later, Emma asks if Sarah can come to her piano recital. Initially resistant, because this feels like family territory. But Emma explains that Sarah has been helping her practice during her weekends with Bill. Apparently Sarah plays piano herself and has been working on Emma's stage confidence. Emma's been struggling with performance anxiety for months, despite professional lessons. Her sudden enthusiasm for the recital suggests Sarah's methods are working. Attend the recital and watch Emma perform with more confidence than I've ever seen. She makes eye contact with the audience and smiles instead of staring at her hands. Afterward, she hugs Sarah first, thanking her for the breathing techniques. Feels simultaneous pride in Emma's growth and discomfort about Sarah's role in achieving it. Other parents compliment Emma's performance and ask about her piano teacher. Have to explain that her regular instructor is excellent, but Sarah has been providing additional support. Driving home, Emma talks non-stop about how Sarah helped her imagine the audience as friends. Simple reframing technique that never occurred to me, despite months of trying to solve her anxiety. Realize Sarah's intuitive understanding of child psychology often yields better results than my research-based approaches. Maybe there's value in emotional intelligence that supplements formal education. Though I still believe evidence-based parenting provides essential foundation, few months later notice significant changes in Bill during pickup and drop-off interactions. He's more communicative, asks thoughtful questions about the kids' school and activities, remembers details about their friends and interests that he used to ignore, takes initiative in coordinating schedules instead of just responding to my requests. Clearly, Sarah's influence has made him a more engaged co-parent. Jake mentions that Bill and Sarah have been taking parenting classes together. Apparently, Sarah suggested they learn about positive discipline techniques and emotional regulation. The woman who I assumed was just providing fun distractions has been pushing Bill toward actual parental development. More growth in 6 months than I achieved during our entire marriage, though possibly my approach was too confrontational to inspire change. 1.5 years after meeting Sarah, both. Kids are thriving by every measurable standard. Emma's grades improved, she's made new friends, and her anxiety has significantly decreased. Jake is more confident, cooperative, and emotionally regulated than ever before. Their relationship with Bill is stronger and more positive. They return from his house happy and settled instead of overstimulated or conflicted. Realize that my initial concerns about Sarah's influence were largely unfounded. She hasn't undermined my parenting so much as complemented it with different strengths. The children benefit from experiencing multiple approaches to problem solving and emotional support. Maybe the diversity in parenting styles provides them with more comprehensive development. Though I still maintain that structure and high expectations remain important. Decide to invite Sarah to coffee again, this time with genuine appreciation rather than suspicion. want to understand her background and philosophy more deeply. Turns out she grew up in a large family where she helped raise younger siblings, learned early that different children need different approaches to feel supported and valued. Her classroom experience reinforced these insights about individualized learning. Sarah mentions she's considering going back to school for her bachelor's degree in early childhood development. Bill is encouraging her to pursue advanced education. She's interested in research about trauma-informed teaching and culturally responsive pedagogy. Clearly more intellectually curious and growth-oriented than I initially recognized. Her humility about her current education level is refreshing rather than concerning. Ask about her long-term goals with Bill and the children. She's thoughtful about the complexity of step-parenting and her role boundaries. Acknowledges that I'm Emma and Jake's mother, and she's trying to support rather than replace. Mentions specific ways she defers to my expertise while offering her own strengths. The conversation reveals someone who's genuinely committed to the family's well-being over her own ego. A few weeks later, Sarah texts me directly for the first time. Emma has been having nightmares, and Sarah wants to coordinate our responses. She's researched age-appropriate strategies and wants to make sure we're consistent. Suggests a brief phone call to discuss approaches instead of handling it independently. Demonstrates respect for my primary parent role while taking initiative to help. During the call, realized Sarah's insights about Emma's anxiety triggers are surprisingly sophisticated. She's noticed patterns I missed and has practical suggestions for addressing them. Her recommendations align with current research on childhood anxiety management. We end up talking for an hour about various strategies and dividing responsibilities. Feel like I'm collaborating with another parent rather than defending my territory. 6 months later, Emma asks if Sarah can come to parent-teacher conferences. Initially, hesitant, because this feels like overstepping traditional boundaries. But Emma explains that Sarah helps with homework and should know what teachers recommend. Realize that Sarah's involvement in educational support makes her input valuable. Agree on the condition that I lead the conversation and Sarah participates as support. During the conference, Sarah asks thoughtful questions about differentiated learning approaches, takes notes about strategies for supporting Emma's creative strengths while building analytical skills. Teacher clearly appreciates having multiple adults invested in Emma's academic success. Afterward, Sarah thanks me for including her and asks how she can best support the teacher's recommendations. No territorial behavior or attempts to position herself as an authority. 2 years after the divorce, attend Jake's kindergarten graduation together as a blended family. Bill, Sarah, and I sit together while Emma saves seats. Jake beams, seeing all his important adults in the same place. Other families comment on how well we coordinate as co-parents. Realize that Sarah's presence has actually improved my relationship with Bill by reducing conflict. Sarah suggests we get dinner afterward to celebrate Jake's milestone. During the meal, both kids chatter excitedly about their summer plans. Notice how naturally Sarah includes me in discussions about activities and schedules. She's planning a camping trip and wants to make sure it aligns with my work travel. Asks if I have any concerns about outdoor activities or safety considerations. Watching Sarah interact with Emma and Jake over dinner, see genuine maternal affection. She celebrates their achievements, listens to their concerns, and guides them through social situations. The children clearly feel loved and supported by her presence. Her influence has been consistently positive despite my initial skepticism. Maybe my definition of successful parenting was too narrow. A few weeks later, Sarah calls asking for advice about discipline strategies. Jake has been testing boundaries and she wants my perspective on appropriate consequences. Conversation reveals her deep respect for my role and expertise as his mother. She's trying to maintain consistent standards while supporting his emotional needs, asks thoughtful questions about balancing firmness with compassion. Realize that over 2 years, Sarah has never criticized my parenting or undermined my authority. She's consistently supported my decisions while offering additional perspective. The children have benefited from having another adult who loves and invests in them. My initial fears about territorial competition were based on insecurity rather than reality. Sarah's presence has enriched rather than diminished our family dynamic. 3 years post-divorce, Emma starts middle school and faces typical social challenges. Sarah and I coordinate our responses to friendship drama and academic pressure. Text regularly about strategies and observations. She notices things I miss due to work demands, and I provide context she lacks about Emma's history. Our collaboration feels natural and mutually supportive. Realize that Sarah makes about the same salary she made when I first met her. She's never pushed Bill for expensive lifestyle changes or demanded financial upgrades. Lives modestly, saves carefully, and prioritizes experiences over material possessions. The children have learned valuable lessons about contentment and gratitude from her example. Her financial values complement rather than conflict with the principles I try to teach. Looking back on my initial reaction to Sarah, feel embarrassed about my assumptions. Projected my own insecurities onto someone who was genuinely trying to help. Assumed competitive motives where none existed. Spent months analyzing and documenting instead of appreciating positive changes in my children's lives. My academic approach to parenting made me miss the value of intuitive, emotional support. Sarah never had an agenda beyond loving Bill and caring for Emma and Jake. She didn't try to replace me or undermine my authority. Brought different strengths that complemented rather than competed with mine. Created space for the children to experience multiple forms of love and support. Her presence made everyone's life better, including mine. Now, when people ask about co-parenting with Bill's girlfriend, genuinely recommend Sarah. She's patient, thoughtful, and consistently prioritizes the children's needs. Brings out the best in Bill as both partner and father. Provides Emma and Jake with additional security and affection. Has taught me valuable lessons about collaboration over competition. 3 years later, watching Jake help Sarah make cookies while Emma reads nearby. Bill building a treehouse in their backyard for both kids to enjoy. Everyone laughing together about some inside joke I don't understand. Realize this is what successful blended family looks like. Not perfect, but loving and supportive and genuinely happy. Maybe Sarah's simple approach was exactly what everyone needed.